Greetings, this special video is brought to you by Dad, to show the world that an average gentleman like myself can cook. Sometimes. Maybe all the time. Now, let's get on with the show! Alright, we enter the kitchen and I will display to you all the basics of our working countertop, starting with the lids. We sterilize the lids. We blanch the tomatoes. Those who don't know what blanching is, it's basically a heating to cooling process. Is it needed? It's not necessary. However, it does help either slow or stop the enzyme process so that you can actually retain the nutrients of the tomatoes. So I definitely encourage it. Plus, it helps you remove the skins off the tomatoes. Next, what we're looking at here is the pressure cooker, which we'll go over in a minute at the end of the video. This is actually what will seal the jars and the lids together. This is actually something I'm really fond of and hope to hold on to it. And then finally, here are the tomatoes. We got these at a food drop provided by Whole Foods with my uncle in the BC area. Please excuse the discoloration. They're not really that red, but yes, they are quite a beauty to behold. These are called tomatoes on a vine. Kind of a unique name. I know there's a scientific name, which I'll display in the text. Here are only some of the jars that I'll be using. I know I have a lot more that I will need to pull out. And yes, I will need a cutting board, and you'll see why in a minute. Hopefully it won't cause too much damage to the counter here. And then here's the ice water for cooling. This will be used for the blanching process. Immediately after we boil the tomatoes, we will place them into the cool water to be ready to be peeled and cut and diced. All right. What I'm doing here is checking each tomato and placing them in the water, pulling off any stickers, pulling off the vines because we don't need them. And the average time that's usually encouraged to boil these is about 30 seconds. However, one thing you'll know about me is that I don't usually go off exactness or for timeliness or even temperature-wise. I just use my best judgment. In fact, a lot of these tomatoes were probably in the water for a good minute or two before I pulled them out. It's just, they say 30 seconds is all you need. Just boil them for 30 seconds, pull them out, cool them off in the ice water, and then you can actually get started on peeling them and dicing them up. All right. Now this is the part after I am confident that they've been boiled. The next step would be to place the boiled tomato into the ice water. And I could just leave it there for however long I need. And that is the blanching process. It's the hot to cool process. Oh, and I probably should mention the person holding the camera is my son Moroni, who took a nice shot of my butt. He is almost 11 years old, getting close to becoming a deacon. I'm very proud of him, and yeah, he's been a big help. Alright, this part requires a lot of patience, but it pays off. With the blanching process, it's actually a lot easier to take the skins off. A lot of people don't care. A lot of them actually leave the skins on. Me personally, I'd rather just take it off because it really doesn't hold much of a nutritious value, in my opinion. Now, once you do take the skin off, just be wary that it does get a little bit more difficult to cut.
Mushy.
Yes, very mushy. But the mushiness is actually a good thing, because once, and you'll see this at the end of the video, once you actually put it in the jars, you'll notice that it becomes more of almost like a stew-like substance, which is exactly what we need, especially when we're canning them, because then it just becomes more fluid-like versus chunky. Now, obviously, I won't show every single tomato that I'm going to cut throughout this entire video, because then I'll just put you guys to sleep. But in hindsight, all you really need to do is just dice it up into cubes. Some might actually do it as slices, but I try to do it up as cubes. I promise it's no earthquake. It's just my son trying to handle the camera. All right, next step will be, once they're all diced up, or as small as possible, that's when I start putting them into the jars, one spoonful at a time. I wish they could be faster, but unfortunately I cannot. At the time, I couldn't find the funnel, though the funnel wouldn't really have helped much. And the other reason is because the entry to the jars is pretty narrow, and the whole point of it is to try to keep the jars, at least the rim of the jars, as clean as possible. You need to keep it as dry and as clean as well as the lids, otherwise it will not seal. And by the end of it, this is what your jar will look like. So you notice how fluid it is? That's just by cutting up all the tomatoes. We have this bunch currently blanching right now, and this bunch right here currently cooling, and still the lid's sterilizing, which shows it's a process. And if you're interested, you could also season your tomatoes. If you prefer just go bland and just put tomatoes by themselves, that's up to you. But this is, before you fill them up, I always encourage people, just go at it. Put seasonings in your jars prior to putting them in there. I'm kind of a sucker for garlic and garlic salt. Kind of gives it a little bit of a niche, a nice little. But yeah, what I was doing there is I was basically saying not too much. I made that mistake, and I think I may have driven some vampires away. All you need is just maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon. That's it for each jar, because this stuff is pretty powerful. Now, I don't think I showed in the videos, but after I fill up each jar with the garlic and close up the lids, I just give it a nice good shake to help it mix around. Just a heads up, your countertop will be wet, and that usually occurs after you blanch tomatoes. All right, And once everything is done, you got yourselves jarred tomatoes. And are we done? Not even close. Now comes the fun part, is to use the pressure cooker, which I have preparing right now. All right. While the water and the pressure is building up in the pressure cooker, I make sure that I have my towel ready. Once I get the jars out, I will place them on here where they will cool down. The one thing I need to keep an eye on is, and I'm sorry, I apologize for the blurriness. Hopefully we'll get better equipment soon, is we need to keep this to the best of our ability to 10 pounds. I don't know why they call it pounds, but that's basically where it needs to be in the gauge. 10 for the next 25 minutes. What you see me doing right now is releasing the pressure. By releasing the pressure, this is supposed to bring it down. Now, obviously, it's not going to go down as quickly as possible. If it goes over, that's not a big issue. Just as long as it doesn't go into the red zone to the far right, that's when you'll have danger. You'd think you're on a train. I actually had to keep the releasing the pressure because it actually kept going over 10. But I know we're going to be okay. Still got about maybe 15 minutes left on the clock before I have to open this thing, which is not always fun. Chasey Jr. coming down the track, down and down the track, with a welcome mat. toot toot. Time to get all the pressure out. 25 minutes is up, and this is essential. I took the lid off in order to release all of the pressure. This part we have to do a little bit of waiting, because if you try to open it right now, it will unfortunately you'll experience an explosion unlike any other. It's pretty cool though. But yes, you got to make sure all the pressure is released. Now, I'm not perfect. Part of me will make mistakes. Even if it looks like all the pressure's out, there's still probably some simmering out. All right, it's coming low. One thing to note, the best way to know if it's actually safe is you got to listen to it. Now, you notice I'm putting my hand right there. If anybody was wondering if it's actually safe, it's actually not too bad as long as you keep your hand a distance away, but the closer you get, yes, the more heat you'll feel. All right, the moment of truth. Is it done? So even I'm trying my best to be careful, but even I make mistakes, as you may well have noticed. It wasn't quite done. Don't worry, I'm okay. But that's actually what you can kind of expect from a pressure cooker.
It will burn you.
All right. And at this point, we're pretty much done. The only thing that we're waiting for is for them to self-seal. And how you know that that works is if you hear a click, that means the lid is actually collapsed on itself and the jar has sealed. So these are especially good for making pasta or stewed dishes with, kind of equivalent to a tomato sauce or spaghetti sauce, which is what I'm doing right now. And the rest will be put in for long-term storage that I put into our pantry along with other stuff, such as our, as you can see down there, our sweet potatoes. And in the back are apples, which I'll show you right here, which we're saving to make apple pie for either Thanksgiving or Christmas time frame. Well, we hope you enjoyed this show and give us a likes up, and we hope to see you again. We hope you like this video, like and subscribe, and if you don't like making tomatoes, then feel free to order a pizza, and don't forget to tip the dog.